The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. The disciples of John the Baptist and of the Pharisees were accustomed to fasting. People came to Jesus and objected, "Why do the disciples of John and disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?" Jesus answered them, "Can the wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. But the days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast. On that day, no one sews a piece of unshrunken cloth on an old cloak. If he does, the fullness pulls away, and the new from the old, and the tear gets worse. Likewise, no one pours new wine into old wineskins, otherwise the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the skins are ruined. Rather, new wine is poured with fresh wineskins." The Gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. Jesus challenges us with that reading today, but it's very simple. But I love those little analogies he gives about the new wine, old wineskins. When I first heard this years ago, I didn't realize that the wineskins and the wineskins are made of like parts of an animal, and they have to be the same age as the wine, or else as the wine ferments in the old skins, the skins could burst. That's why that analogy. But Jesus is focusing on almost yesterday's gospel. It's not the same author either, about the wedding feast. So Jesus is celebrating himself as the groom with us. So when the groom is with us in his time, the critics are saying, "Why aren't you people fasting?" The groom is with us. We're celebrating because he's with us, talking about himself. We'll talk about that in a second more. Today is the feast of Saint Anthony Abbott. Saint Anthony Abbott is referred to as the father of hermits and monasticism. He's only referred to that because he made early monasticism very popular. He's old. This is going back before the church received religious freedom. So it goes back before Constantine, which is 325, into the period of Diocletian, his predecessor. And he's from Egypt, and he took the scriptures very seriously. What's interesting is that he knew the scriptures. This is like 100 something, maybe 150, or maybe a little later than that. The scriptures were being copied and translated. He's from Egypt. He was Coptic, which is Egyptian Catholic. And he took the scriptures very seriously, left his home, his responsibilities, and he went into the desert to be a hermit. So many stories around that were written, especially through the Middle Ages, and so many graphic paintings were made about his experience in the desert. He was tempted by Satan. He was tempted by evil. He was tempted by pictures of sexuality and torment, and he stayed fast to his faith. Saint Anastasius wrote about this. That's why we know those temptations. But he founded his monastery, and there were other monks around, but his was more austere, and he ate very little, and he fasted a great deal. That's why it's almost parallel to the gospel. But even in his fasting, he should have been emaciated. When people would visit him, although he didn't have many visitors, he always looked good. So whatever he ate, water and bread, nourished him. And deep spirituality, a kind of spirituality that is not popular today. We don't understand it. I guess we could comprehend it, but we don't follow it. Real total abandonment from the world. Okay, that's Abbott. The theme today in the scriptures, I chose three words: sins, smiles, and sadness. I'll start with the sadness first. Sadness due to the fact that we as a nation have a history of slavery. We're not alone. Slavery existed throughout the world before us, before we ever came on the scene, but it was popularized, and America became strong on the backs of slavery, especially with the cotton that came out of the South and the use of slave labor to build many parts of our nation. And we commemorate the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King, who was a real pain in the neck for white people. He was really the conscience, almost a Catholic conscience, but he wasn't Catholic, of the nation, because he sought justice and rights for people. You know, we could read about that. Sometimes it's important to go into history and get the first exposure to the results of slavery. I read a book a few months ago, If These Stones Could Talk, about slavery in New Jersey, and where the slaves in New Jersey were exiled to, and that's basically what it was segregated, and where their bodies in their churches were buried. And it was so insignificant that they were buried and forgotten. And the land was often plowed over and used for other things. You and I would never think of that, to desecrate our cemeteries. So I'm reading this book and I realize how difficult it is for the ancestors of the slaves. Imagine if your grandmother and grandfather were slaves. I mean, that's outstanding. I know my grandfather wasn't, but he was a contadina. He was a farmer. He was poor, and so was my grandmother, his wife. They were poor, but they were able to make a living. Could you imagine coming into a society when just because you have a different colored face, you're not even allowed to make a living? It's almost incomprehensible for us. It's bizarre. And it ties in with what was going on in the first reading today. Samuel talking to Saul. Saul had just been anointed king, and he's doing everything right, but he's not really doing anything right. He's doing it right according to society's mores of that day. And Samuel confronts him. You're not doing God's will, you're doing your own will. He had conquered a group of people, and he said, I did that for God. Well, you didn't really do that for God. If you want to do something for God, offer sacrifices. Don't spread blood. Don't shed blood. And again, it's confusing because war was blessed by God in the Old Testament as a way of the people of Israel getting an identity and a land of their own. So you have that very conflictual experience going on as believers. But that was a society. That was a day. But even with that, Samuel was pointing out to the greater good, and we as Catholics always focus on the greater good, okay? The respect for all people and the greater good for society. That's one of our tenets of social theology, social teaching. So we have that sadness as we commemorate Martin Luther King. Talking about the past, it was, oh, yeah, it's gone, thank God it's gone. It's not gone. Prejudice is so subtle today. You know that if a black person came into church, and I look around, I don't see anyone black, we'd have an attitude toward him or her. Maybe we'd welcome him. Maybe we'd give him a special place. Maybe we'd say, oh, come on in, welcome. We'd go overboard, probably. Some of us would go overboard in welcoming that black person. Some of us would just shun him or her and sit someplace else. So and we have to look into our consciences, to our hearts, that prejudice is still endemic in our society. And, well, the traditional phrase, what if a black family moved next to you? Immediately, we all have a reaction, pro or con, but to have a reaction at all is inappropriate and shows how subtle prejudice is. If we welcome them with open arms, or if we shun them It's a kind of subtle prejudice based on guilt, probably, that what do we do with this person who's so different than me? And of course, that refers back to Samuel and Saul in a very wide perspective. From the perspective, you're doing what is right, but maybe for the wrong reasons. And then we have a reason to smile today. Any of us who are fans of the Golden Girls commemorate the death of Betty White today. Her birthday is today. Betty White played a ditzy blonde on the Golden Girls, and I watch frequently the reruns of it. And great comedian. She took comic roles, took serious roles. She was sarcastic at times in her roles, and a great humanitarian, but a great animal lover. And wherever we see Betty White, and I don't even know if she was Catholic, but she was a figure in our society, we smile. And that's a good reason to smile, because people don't have to look at their religion, but their behavior. And her behavior as a comedian and as a person who loved God's creatures is a good example. And when we see her on stage or on film or TV, we can smile. So, sinners, smiles, and I guess we look inside ourselves, and we have to say, in reference to St. Anthony Abbott, where are we? Are we so part of the world that Anthony Abbott left that we don't see justice? Or are we so removed from the world that we don't see injustice? So smiles, sins, and our interior search is very important, even to the sadness of our society's blot on our history. So from here forward, let's be sensitive to smiles of one another. Let's be sensitive to our sins, and don't be quick to do this, to point to other people's sins. And let's be sensitive to the sadness that our ancestors, our American ancestors, still suffer today as they think of their past. There's that series on TV, it's called Roots, in which the author searches the roots of many people, many black people, and famous black people, famous actors and actresses, famous politicians. And as he searches back, and thank God for DNA, and thank God for artificial intelligence and research and computers, he goes back to some of them, and it always strikes me and the people being interviewed that some of their relatives were sold and bought. Let that sit for a second. Could you imagine? Don't go to your ancestors, go to your mother or father. Could you imagine your mother or father being sold to go do some sort of menial job? Or your father, if he was strong, being pulled away from your family because he's strong and he can go and do another menial job? It should be heart-wrenching. It should give us a great deal of sadness. So as you read the newspapers, see TV, or go to the commemorations of Martin Luther King, just realize that. Those people have a great sadness. I say those people, and I mean the black people of our society, and as they call them now, black and brown, non-white, non-Caucasian, whatever it is. And there's so many even interpretations of that. Realize they have a lot to be sad about and a lot to be smiling about. And we do too. We have to join them as our brothers and sisters, as Christians. Anthony Abbott, by the way, was black.